Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie.
Sorry.
I've actually got a live podcast on as I'm talking to you. So it's like this sort of weird feeling. So the news is, of course, let me just turn the sound down on that. The news is that Victor the Viper, I'm going to show his face one last time. This will be the last time that I will show his face. In fact, I'm going to show the face that I've just done of him behind bars. Anyway, he's guilty. So all the stupid things he said, that he'd never been to Bel Air or Maryland. He's got the people who said they were his cousins. He didn't know who they were. They weren't his cousins. Nothing to do with him. He ain't got a clue what they were talking about. All those things, questioning the DNA. I think the main, because the defence, they did have absolutely nothing, did they? But what they were doing was casting aspersions on Rachel's boyfriend at the time, or anybody else that might have had any relationship with her. They were saying it was a crime of passion, that Victor had no reason to do that. Sorry, I feel a bit sort of stunned. Here we go. So yeah, that's the picture I like to see of Victor now. In fact, maybe I will show it again in the future, just like that behind bars. So he's not been sentenced yet. So he's just been found guilty. So how quick was that? How quick was that? As I say, the defence had just had nothing to go on, did they? They had nothing. Nada. But they tried to make up for that by questioning the DNA or questioning. Now, I'm watching this podcast or this live chat from Decipher from Tia, who's been one of the YouTubers who's local that's been covering this case. And she's, I'm glad to see she's just as bad as me at live videoing and things, because she's driving along and she went to the trail and she's really happy, that it's a funny feeling, isn't it? God knows how the family feel, because it is a euphoric feeling in one way. It's a very emotional feeling, just for me, just as someone who's covered the case. But of course, it's still sad because, Rachel's still not coming back. But it's nice to know that justice has been served, and just hope now it's all about the sentencing now, isn't it? It's all about the sentencing. Anyway, I'm just going to say hello to anyone who's in the chat. I mean, I just totally put this live up. It's late for me, as you know. It's nearly midnight here in Spain, and I'm not normally up at this time. I've got me. I'm not in my pajamas. I have got a dress on, but I've got me dressing gown on. And the other thing that I've got is a massive vodka. I've got a vodka and pineapple juice to celebrate. Because it's a good feeling, isn't it? It's a good feeling. I don't know what Rachel's favourite tipple was. Maybe she didn't drink. She was very health aware, of course, which I'm not. Maybe she did drink, maybe she didn't. If I knew what her favourite tipple was, I'd get some of that in as well tomorrow and have a drink in her sort of memory where she can't. Anyway, hi Bluebell. Hi Geordie Lass. Hi Tracy. Hi Silver. Yeah, and hi to all of you that are watching at home, and hi to people who are watching on Catch Up. Thank you to everyone who's been with me through Rachel's case. It really is a nice feeling. It really is a nice feeling. Now let me just take my name off there. I don't know why my name comes up on there sometimes, because I think you all know my name, don't you, really? Sometimes I don't put it up there. It just, sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. What else do I want to say? Yeah, so I was looking at the videos on my channel, and I found I think what is the very first video that I did about Rachel. Right back, not last August, but the August before, when this happened, when Rachel was, cruelly taken from this world, taken from all her loved ones. And she was a joy to this world. She was a positive influence on the world. Mother of 5, hard worker, a beautiful person inside and out. And then that horrible man just came along. Just, we don't know yet, and will we ever know whether he actually targeted Rachel in particular, or it was just, he was targeting any woman who happened to walk past him on that trail that day. Because this happened, just in case anybody is watching who doesn't know, this was in Bel Air, Maryland, in the United States. And it was a trail, the Morin Trail. Let's have a look at the Morin Trail. A trail that Rachel had been walking on ever since she was a child. A trail where she'd always felt safe, and normally people were safe there. Look for some photos of it. And that particular day, the evil was on that trail. He's like a demon, this man, like a devil. Honestly, I'm starting to really believe sometimes there's like, there's evil in the world as well as good. There is good. Look, this is the Morin Trail. Various pictures of it. It's beautiful. There is evil in the world. And it's, they go hand in hand, don't they? If you believe in good, which I do, and I believe in God, but then unfortunately, there is evil in this world as well, which is very sad. And on that day, there was evil waiting for Rachel Morin. Well, as I say, not sure if, specifically waiting for Rachel, but there was evil there on that trail. And Rachel, unfortunately, got the brunt of it. And literally, so what this man did, she was just walking along the trail, or maybe jogging. We're not sure if she was walking or jogging at the time. It was something she did on a regular basis. It was a Saturday evening, round about 7 o'clock in the evening. And it seems like, this is what we can gather, that he came up behind her with a shovel, that we're not sure where he got the shovel from. Probably whacked her across the back of the head as she was there with her earpods. She just hoped she didn't know anything about it, or knew little about it. That's all we can hope for. But he then brutally attacked her, dragged her off the trail into like a storm drain type thing. And he then violated her, beat her. I mean, it was awful what he did to her. Terrible, terrible injuries that Rachel sustained. I just hope she didn't know much about it, that's all. And then he left her there. Well, he had a poo first, who defecated in that tunnel before he left her there. He smashed her phone. It's thought that he smashed her phone so she could not call for help. He wanted to make sure she was deceased. He didn't want her identifying him, because this man had already murdered someone in his home country of El Salvador. He was already a killer. And he had sneaked across the border. He tried 3 times, finally succeeded. I think it was the 4th time. Again, illegally. I mean, he didn't come through border control, but he was returned by border control those first 3 times. And then he got over the border that final time. And he committed a terrible crime, first of all in Los Angeles, where he brutally attacked a little girl and her mother. Now, whether he'll get held to account for that or not, I don't know. I think he'll get sentenced. His sentence will probably be life without parole. Now, so whether they'll bother taking him to, I know for a fact that the law enforcement and probably the family as well, want him to stay in Maryland where they know where he is. You can keep an eye on him. They want him to stay there for the rest of his life. Hi, Daniel. I'll have a look in a minute if it's not sure if it's unanimous. Let's have a look. So anyway, then he made his way all the way over to the other side of the country to visit these cousins that eventually denied that he had, that he even knew about. But he had left a baseball cap at the previous scene in Los Angeles. So they had his DNA from there, and that was matched with the DNA. Gosh, do you remember? I remember as clear, honestly, I can't believe it's been nearly 2 years. So I remember as clear as day the press conference where Sheriff Jeff Gahler said that this is what had happened. And then do you remember they released that video of him, the door cam video of him coming out of the apartment? But it was so frustrating because you could see his shoulders, but you could only see the profile of his face. He never turned his face to the camera. It was only his profile. And so that was what they had, and I remember saying at the time, oh, they're going to find this guy really quick. They've got his DNA. They've got video of him, even though it's not full frontal video, it is video. And I was thinking, surely somebody who knew that guy would recognize him. But of course, now we realize that doorbell camera, the fishbowl lens or whatever, made him look bigger than he really is, because he's actually just, he's a wiry little twonk, but he's still just a little twonk. So, all this happened, God, and we followed this case ever since. Gosh, it's like a journey, isn't it? It's sort of, it is emotional because as I say, God knows how the family are feeling, because if this is how I feel, and I'm just a YouTuber who's just been looking at this case along with others, so I've always returned to this case. I've never let go of it. I've always talked about, even in the long 10 months when they were searching for this guy, because we thought, they'll find him quick. They didn't find him quick. It took 10 months, but it was painstaking work, and they did well to get him, and they got him through DNA, genealogy, eventually, and painstaking police work that spread over different states. It's not easy, is it? Because you've got the you've got the El Salvador thing. Then you've got the Los Angeles thing. Then right over the other side of the country, Bel Air, Maryland, that thing. And he was actually found in Oklahoma. So, this guy was just traveling at will around the United States. So they did really well, to trace him, to find him. And remember that arrest video of him just sat in that bar having a drink and then going in there and getting him. It was brilliant. There is a euphoria about that when they catch the bad guy. Even though it doesn't bring back the good girl, it's still a fabulous feeling, isn't it? Right, there's a couple of things then I want to check. Sorry. Gosh, trouble with having a vodka as well, though, for me is oh. Ah. Right, so apparently, because I've had a source in the courtroom, somebody who's been going there every day has been letting me know what's going on. So they've just let me know that there'll be a press conference in 35 minutes. So a little way to go yet. I'll try and find that press conference. So first of all, let's find out, was it a unanimous verdict? I think it must. Oh, hang on. Let's have a look, see if we can find. Let's have a look at a little news article about it. Video, let's have a look.
There's a verdict reached in the murder trial of Rachel Morin.
The jury found Victor Martinez Hernandez guilty on all 4 charges, including murder. I want to get right out to 11 News reporter David Collins. And David, you were in the courtroom when the verdict was announced.
Well, it took the jury just about an hour to reach the guilty verdict on premeditated first-degree murder, first-degree rape, third-degree assault, and kidnapping. Now, under tight security, I heard gasps. I heard a lot of people sniffing. There's a lot of relief in the courtroom today, and it was packed full of Rachel Morin's family and friends. Prosecutors say evidence was overwhelming, including DNA and witness testimony. The defendant himself, I was keeping a close eye on him. He didn't show any obvious signs of a reaction. Now, sentencing will come at a later date, and that is also an opportunity where Morin's family can provide impact statements to the judge. The prosecution, the state, was seeking life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, we're set up just a few feet away from me, is set up for a news conference with the prosecution on this case, and we'll bring you some of that when it happens. Reporting live from Bel Air, David Collins, WBAL TV 11 News.
No, I didn't mention whether it was unanimous or not, but I presume it was. I can only presume. Hi, Amethyst. I can only presume. Oh, look at that. I'm warming up a bit, so I'm going to take my pink dressing gown off. But anyway, that's, it is warming up a little bit. Yeah, so they didn't say whether it was unanimous or not. But anyway, I'm presuming it was. So yeah, there's going to be this press conference. I'm going to stay on for that press conference. I hope you'll all stay with me. Thank you to those of you who are staying up. Of course, for some of you, it's a different time zone where you are, so that's okay. But yeah, for those of us that it's sort of coming into the night here in Spain, it's 10 past midnight. But I've had a nap today. I'll be fine. Okay, now, what did I want to show you? Oh, that's right. So I just wanted to go and look. I looked up the very first video that I think I did about Rachel. And I thought we'd watch that while we're waiting for the press conference. Now, the other thing I want to do is put up some orange hearts in the chat. Because Rachel loved tiger lilies, and this has just been a symbol that people have been putting into the chats of videos about Rachel, orange hearts. So I'm going to put some up now. I'm going to put the wrong. Right, I've got to find where I am first. Oh, it's so nice that he's guilty. It's just such a nice feeling. I just can't describe how it feels. It's sort of like, I say, euphoric but sad at the same time. Anyway, let's get some orange hearts. Oh, thank you for those of you who've put some up. Yeah, the vodka warming me up. Oh, right. I've got to find out how to do them yet. Do you know, I'm rubbish at this sort of thing. I was on the live for the other lady, Tia from Decipher, and I couldn't even join in the live because I'm absolutely rubbish. You know, I wanted to join her live and put hearts up, and I couldn't find out how to do it on my phone. Anyway, I will find them. I know they're here because I've done them before, but there they are. Right, I'll do a line for me, Tracy. There's my, God, I don't mean cocaine. Yeah, I'll do one for Tracy as well. So, Tracy, you've done 2 lines. Yeah, as many orange hearts as possible. As many orange hearts as possible, please. So, what I'm going to put on now is we're going to have a look at that very first. I think this was the first video that I did about Rachel, and this was, let's see, it says a year ago, but it was more than a year ago. Where do I find the date of when I actually put it on? Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's have a look. Where's my vodka? Cheers, Rachel, wherever you are. Now, it's funny this. Now, do you remember? This was Michael. He was initially, I think he's the father of one of the people that found Rachel. And he had a lot to say in the beginning. And in fact, he had so much to say that I think he sort of brought a bit of suspicion on himself. And JLR Investigates went off to interview him, and we watched that interview. And it was a funny interview. You know, he seemed, there seemed something nervous about him. But anyway, it was nothing. Sometimes people are nervous just getting involved in cases, getting anything, you know, they might have, even though they might have nothing to do with whatever crime it is that's happened, they may have other things that they don't necessarily want the police around their house or whatever. Like probably a lot of the people that the police interviewed about Rachel's case may well not have been in America legally and things. So there's a lot of discomfort, you know, amongst witnesses in some cases to talk to the police, not because they had anything to do with that particular crime, but maybe there's other things. Maybe they're not 100% legal in other ways, maybe with their paperwork, or, you know, so sometimes some people are just naturally distrustful of the police as well. So yeah, so this was August the 5th, 2023, when Rachel was last seen heading towards the Morin Trail. Now, was it August the 5th or was it August the 6th? Anyway, never mind. Yeah, so she just, you know, she was in a new relationship with this guy, Richard Tobin. And it was him who reported her missing when she didn't come back, you know, from a sort of regular jog or hike along the trail. And they'd only made their relationship official on social media 4 days earlier. So Richard came under a lot of suspicion as well in the beginning. You know, that is pretty typical, isn't it, in these sort of cases? He did come under a lot of suspicion. And at the trial, the defence tried to sort of, you know, recreate that suspicion to try and create reasonable doubt. Anyway, I'm going to play this video while I look for this press conference. Sorry, I was having a little drink of tea.
Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. Okay, so in this,
So I just wanted to, so it just shows how long ago it was, how different, you know, the streaming that I do now, how different, where I sit is different, everything's different. My whole, you know, I've got a bit better at streaming, I think, than I was then. Yeah, it's interesting to watch this, such an old video, really. Anyway, let's see.
this video, I'm just going to look at a case that I hadn't heard of, and I want to thank one of my subscribers who knows who she is, who sent me the details of this case by email, some links, etc. I don't know why I hadn't heard about it. I don't really watch mainstream media, I suppose maybe that's why. But this is a very recent case. It's happening now, of Rachel Morin. So let's have a look at some pictures of her actually before we start. Yeah. So another one of those cases where apparently a lady has gone for a walk, not with a dog this time, gone for a hike apparently, and just never come back.
Yeah, now I think I was sent this video or the links to this case because, of course, this was the same year that Nicola Bulley had gone missing in the January. This was August. So it was a similar case in that way, you know, that although Nicola Bulley had gone missing with her dog, but again, just doing an ordinary thing. You know, taking her dog dropping her kids off at school, taking her dog for a walk, going for a walk down by the river. Now, of course, Nicola's case was not found to be red rum in the end. And, you know, we won't go into all the details of what people think about that. But all the mystery surrounding it, etc. And so this case was similar in the sense of it was a woman who'd gone missing, just doing an ordinary thing, going for a run on a trail on somewhere where she'd gone many, many times and felt safe and should have been safe. So that was the similarities, and that's what called it to our attention, wasn't it?
And then later on, her body has now been found along the hiking trail where she supposedly was going hiking. So let's have a look at some photos of her. She's a very attractive woman, a very striking woman. You would notice her, you know, if she was out there walking or and somebody saw her, you know, they wouldn't forget her. You can see very beautiful, looks after herself. You can see that she's a very attractive woman. Now,
Yeah, very attractive woman. So, you know, she's the sort of woman that if you did see her, you would notice her, man or woman, really, because she is strikingly attractive. So again, I don't think it's really clear whether Victor had gone there particularly, for Rachel, or whether he was just lurking there and seeing, taking an opportunity. But it seemed to me that when he took that shovel with him, that he was definitely maybe planning something in particular. And also it struck me because he sort of Rachel, do you think he was watching Rachel? Anyway, we don't know. Only he knows that. It doesn't make any difference really, but God, horrible man. Let me just show you. So we do have the last pictures of Rachel that were taken because when she popped to the supermarket on her way home. On her way to the trail. She'd gone to the supermarket, bought some things. She was dressed for running. Of course, it was summertime. And yeah, and off she went. And that was, unfortunately, the last time that she went to the supermarket and bought things. Bless her. Anyway, let's carry on watching this video.
Now, just as I'm looking at these pictures, I'm just going to have a little click on this Fox News link, because it seems to be suggesting that there were other women murdered as well. Let's have a look. So, Rachel Morin murder eerily similar to high-profile cases of female joggers killed by strangers. Yeah, now, right, before I go to this guy, now, let me explain a bit about the circumstances of this case. So, Rachel had a boyfriend. Now, there are some issues with her boyfriend in the sense of, let me just see if I can find the actual thing I read about the boyfriend. Well, let me read you what happened first of all. So she's 37 years old, this lady. She was last seen heading to the MA and PA trail in Bel Air at around 6 p.m. on Saturday. Her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, reported her missing that night after she failed to return home and her body was found the following day. Her death is being investigated as homicide. Okay, so on Thursday, Harford County Sheriff's Office said investigators had been made aware of potential witnesses who may have seen Morin on the trail, and they were urged to come forward. Okay, so that's basically what happened. Now, well, I say what we don't know exactly what happened to her, but all we know is she set off on a hike apparently, and was never seen alive again. Now, there's a very strange, as I say, obviously, as always, attention goes, doesn't it, onto the boyfriend. And her boyfriend, he has got some previous, he's had problems with the police before. But the police apparently have said that they are not pursuing him in relation to this case. But, sometimes the police say that because they don't want too much attention on somebody. So, basically, we don't know.
Yeah, so quite early on, and this is really early on, of course, poor Richard, he was, people were sort of wondering if it was anything to do with him, especially because he had previous, he had done things in the past. I think he had issues with domestic violence from quite a long time before that. Not with Rachel, he had drug issues, but, he turned his life around. It was one of those cases. But, of course, initially people were thinking, did he have something to do? I mean, it's textbook, really, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, people think those things. It's not for a bad reason. Statistically, it is normally the partner of someone who is responsible, unfortunately, when they go missing. How many cases, do we see where the partner reports their wife or husband missing? And it turns out that it's them, and there's always this sort of, oh, well, yeah, they just went out. They quite often sort of say, oh, yeah, they just said they were going out for a walk or whatever, very similar to what happened with Rachel. And of course, that isn't what they did, because they never went for a walk. We've seen it with the Madeleine Kingsbury case, again, round about the same time as all this going on. Another case, but at that time it was her partner. So, all this happened. Richard must have gone through hell, really, when I think about it at the time. And then he's had to relive it all through the trial. It's a shame, but, I mean, as far as the police are concerned, they're always going to look at the partner first. They have to do that, don't they? They start inside and they work outwards. But I think they cleared him pretty quickly.
So apparently she died in very violent circumstances. It was a very violent homicide. From what people have said, well, from what this guy has said, so this is what we need to look at. This guy is a former National Park Search and Rescue officer, and his stepdaughter was a friend of hers, and he apparently, apparently he didn't find the body, but he told the police to check out the tunnels. Now, if he is a suspicious character and he's a former National Park Search and Rescue officer in that area, he would know, wouldn't he, about the tunnels? That's all I would say. So let's have a look at him. His name is Michael Gabrzeski, and you should be able to see him then. We're going to watch this video. So apparently he did not locate the body. His stepdaughter did, but he has given details out. He said that the body was naked and it looked as if her head had been smashed in. But the sheriff's department have said he didn't find the body, so he hasn't seen the body as far as they know. So it's all a bit strange, but let's just have a look at him and see what you think.
It's my passion to bring closure to that family by bringing her back and not having them wonder what happened.
Following reports, 37-year-old Rachel Morin.
Okay, if I do that with the closed captions.
For Michael Gabrzeski.
Look, it's not going to be laying out in the open.
The Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air, uncharted territory.
I said she's going to be tucked away somewhere.
But the former National Park Search and Rescue officer has extensive experience tracking down missing people.
So basically, it's my passion to...
So do you remember Michael and then JLR went and interviewed him? Can you hear me when I'm talking in between? When I pause the video and I'm talking? Can you hear me now? Hi, Alice. So great. Okay, smashing. Thank you. So let's carry on then. So yeah, this was what Michael had to say at the time when Rachel had been found, but of course nothing was known about who had done it at this time.
Bring closure to that family by bringing her back and not having them wonder what happened.
Following reports, 37-year-old Rachel Morin left for a walk.
So what do you think about that? He said, it's my passion to bring her back to her family so they're not wondering what's happened to her. Now, we know that people who interject themselves into inquiries quite often
Gabrzeski and his stepdaughter
are
taking off on a
involved
search
in it.
rooted on instinct.
I just kept seeing tunnels in my mind. I don't know why, but I just kept seeing tunnels.
So he just kept seeing tunnels in his mind. He doesn't know why.
Despite law enforcement swarming the area for almost a full day, Gabrzeski's stepdaughter locating the body in about an hour. The deadly discovery.
Once we got down there and I started seeing them tunnels,
So he's within, despite the police having been searching, his stepdaughter located her within an hour, probably with his suggestions.
Yeah, so this caused a bit of a stir at the time because these storm drain tunnels, he almost suggested to his stepdaughter, didn't he, to look in these tunnels. But he probably knew the area better than even the police did, I suppose, because these storm drain tunnels where Victor took Rachel to, they were hidden away, you know, especially with all the undergrowth and everything at the time. So really, unless you knew they were there, you would not know to go and look there. And that, of course, is where Rachel was found.
started getting goosebumps.
Made in a tunnel drain not far from the trail's main entrance.
I saw a terrible mess.
Gabrzeski's visions meeting.
Oh, right, sorry.
Antonio Martinez Hernandez for the brutal 2023 rape, murder, and kidnapping of Rachel.
Right, we're going to the press conference.
This case shook our Harford County community and robbed a family of their daughter, sister, mother, and friend. On August 5th, 2023, Rachel spent her day, as she often did, spending time with her children and boyfriend, working out at a local gym, running errands, and finally taking a walk on the Ma and Pa Trail. Witnesses testified that her time on the trail was her peace, and she never could have predicted that on that day she would never see or speak to her children again. Shortly after entering the trail, Rachel was brutally attacked by Victor Martinez Hernandez, who was waiting in the woods. Rachel fought for her life as she was pulled 150 feet from the main trail into the woods. This was shown by the health data contained on her phone and Apple Watch. Evidence presented at trial proved that once concealed in the drainage culvert just off the trail, she was viciously beaten, raped, and ultimately murdered at the hands of the defendant. DNA evidence recovered from various parts of Rachel's body matched the DNA of Victor Martinez Hernandez. Despite his claims that he had never been to Maryland, the state produced multiple witnesses and business records, proving that he was living and working in Bel Air at the time of the murder. Ultimately apprehended in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the defendant's phone was seized, examined, and found to contain multiple photos and screenshots of Rachel, Harford County news coverage relating to the murder investigation, and searches of her name. From the moment Rachel's body was found, my office has worked hand in hand with the Harford County Sheriff's Office on this case to ensure its successful prosecution. The incredible efforts of the Harford County Sheriff's Office, including Detective Golden, digital forensics examiners Waltemeyer and Marsh, Detective Wilsinski, Detective Smith, Captain Lean, and Sergeant Maddox should not go unmentioned, as their thorough investigation and tireless determination ultimately led to this defendant's apprehension and convictions. We would also like to thank all of our state, local, and federal partners that played a role in supporting the investigative efforts that spanned 10 months to bring this defendant to justice, specifically the Bel Air Police Department, the Tulsa Police Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Homeland Security, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We also want to express thanks to the Maryland State Police Forensic Sciences Division for their significant contribution to this case with the DNA analysis. Finally, I would like to thank my co-counsel, David Ryan, for his assistance in the prosecution of this case. I must also acknowledge the tremendous effort put forth by my staff from the moment Rachel's body was found and the countless hours spent preparing this case and the over 500 pieces of evidence for trial. At sentencing, the state intends to seek the maximum penalty allowable by law, which includes life without the possibility of parole on the first-degree murder, a life sentence on the first-degree rape, and additional years on the remaining charges. It is my sincere hope that today's verdict brings some peace and closure to the entire Morin family. While no verdict or sentence can ever bring Rachel back, I am proud of the work that was done to ensure that justice was served and that Victor Martinez Hernandez will never again be a threat to another woman in his lifetime. I'm now going to turn the mic over for remarks to Sheriff Gaylor and our federal partners, and I will take questions at the end. Sheriff Gaylor.
Good evening. I just want to start off by absolutely expressing the thanks from me as the Sheriff of Harford County on behalf of our men and women, particularly our criminal investigators who worked this case so hardly, and our Harford County community who, as you heard from Allison, were so moved by this horrific story and had the world, not just the nation, but the world following. When Ms. Healy says that they were there working this case side by side, she meant it. They were there from the outset at the crime scene along the trail, working alongside our people, hoping for this day, preparing for this day when we would put this person, this monster, in front of a jury and let the evidence speak for itself, which it has. And in record time, what seems like record time, 46 minutes deliberation, returned the just verdict. So I want to thank Ms. Healy and her incredible staff. We have a great working relationship, and there are some cases in a career that really test you, no matter what your role might be. And certainly, her coming in as state's attorney 2.5 years ago, this is a lot of experience behind that. But as the individual sitting in the elected state's attorney's chair, she was presented with this super large case. She sat there with her co-counsel, Mr. Ryden, and prosecuted this case and got the just verdict. I would say just sentencing ahead, but Maryland did away with the death penalty, which I can't think of any case more appropriately fitting, and sadly our legislature has decided otherwise. I do want to thank, again, you heard from me at the time of the arrest last June, the men and women of the Sheriff's Office and all of our allied partners, many behind me today, many who couldn't be here on short notice. But without that cooperation at the state, the local, and the federal level, working hand in hand with one another, with no restrictions set on by silly legislators who want to be pro-criminal, but actually working for public safety, this is what you're able to accomplish. You're able to find the needle in a haystack, and that needle was this monster. The haystack was the world, and working hand in hand, working the evidence, working the technology and the science, we were able to find that individual and bring him to court today to face this justice system. Allison used the word closure when you talk about Rachel's family. Patty, all the members of Rachel's family. And we all know there's no such thing as closure. I also said this at the arrest. They have to live with this for the rest of their life. Closure would mean we bring Rachel back. And we all know that that's not possible. They have to live with the fact, knowing that this person who took Rachel's life in such a horrific way, that he will be removed from society and never allowed to harm another human being again. And that's what we have to take away from this as a success. But with the failure in here, I don't want to, it shouldn't be political, but the failure here again is the immigration system that allowed this person to enter our country illegally and remain in our country and commit crimes in Los Angeles and then here in Harford County. The crime is the Kayla Hamilton case, also from this county. We need our government to work as efficiently as this investigation and this prosecution to work together and take the politics out of it and fix the immigration system in this country and keep our communities safe. And with that, I will end my remarks, and I'll be happy to take some questions at the end, as Allison said. But Special Agent in Charge Bill DeBono has a few remarks.
Oh, the sound's gone off now.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Bill Del Bagno. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI Baltimore field office. Today's conviction is proof that the FBI and our extraordinary partners at the Harford County Sheriff's Office have a long reach. While nothing can bring back Rachel, we can make sure that her killer can do no more harm. This investigation and today's conviction make it clear to any criminals that if you're thinking you're going to get away with it, you won't. And the FBI and our partners will do everything we can to stop you. We will track you down, and we will make you pay for your crimes. We hope at the FBI that this guilty verdict brings confidence to the community and brings peace to Rachel's family and her loved ones. The FBI remains deeply committed to protecting our community from violent criminals. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike McCarthy. I am the Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security's Baltimore Field Office. Today, justice has been served. A jury has returned a guilty verdict in the case of Mr. Martinez Hernandez, who has been convicted of the murder of Rachel Morin. This was a brutal and tragic crime, one that shook our community and devastated a family. I want to begin by thanking the outstanding men and women of the Harford County Sheriff's Office. Their dedication and persistence led to the swift and thorough investigation of this case. Their tireless efforts ensured that the truth came to light. I also want to thank our prosecutors and everyone in the Harford County State's Attorney's Office for their exceptional work. They approached this case with the seriousness and focus it demanded, and they ensured that the facts were presented clearly and forcefully in court. It's important to note that the individual convicted today was in the country illegal. This fact adds another layer of pain and frustration to many of us in the community. It raises questions that deserve to be taken seriously about how we protect our neighborhoods, about how we enforce our laws, and how we prevent such tragedy in the future. To the family of Rachel, I know this day is filled with emotion. While no verdict could undo the loss you've endured, I hope today's outcome brings some measure of justice and a small step toward healing. Your strength and perseverance have been remarkable, and our hearts remain with you. Our community remains committed to public safety and to the rule of law. HSI will continue to work with our law enforcement partners at every level to keep our neighborhoods safe and to hold accountable those who break our laws, no matter who they are or where they come from. Thank you very much.
We will now
Marcus
take.
Espinoza with News Station. Hi. This is a question for anybody who may feel free to answer it. You mentioned how quick they deliberated, 46 minutes. Is there some poetic justice? Of course, there's not closure, we've mentioned that, but is there some poetic justice in this happened in 2023? We're in 2025. When you saw a decision so affirmative, so quick, does that give any sort of sense of that poetic justice here for Rachel?
I think the quickness of the verdict speaks to the strength of the evidence in the case. This was an airtight case thanks to the Harford County Sheriff's Office and their hard work. So I think the length of the deliberation is solely based on the strength of the evidence.
Were you surprised by how quickly they came?
I would say no. I felt like we presented a strong case. I felt the evidence was strong, and I felt it was questionable that the defendant was the person.
Ms. Healy, we saw evidence during this trial that it appeared the defendant had been watching videos on reports about this case. One of the screenshots we saw has you in it. How did you feel learning that he was watching as you were working to build the case?
I mean, I think those searches were in the last days, in the early June timeframe, through like the 14th. So I think it was really as the police were closing in. Those were cached images. What that means is if he was watching the video, any images that appeared would go into the cache. So I think I think ultimately at the end of the day, I feel like he was trying to stay one step ahead, but he failed.
That's for tomorrow. I would done that.
Is that mandatory, or is it ultimately up to the judges?
It's ultimately up to the judge. We have to file our notice of our intention to seek that, but at the end of the day, the sentence will be at the judge's discretion. So I think the DNA evidence was incredibly important. While the jury obviously didn't hear about the forensic genealogy pieces of this, because that was really just investigative leads that led them to the family members in this case. Obviously, the DNA goes on that side, as well as ultimately when we were able to get Mr. Martinez Hernandez's DNA both from the clothes in Temple Hills and then ultimately his DNA swab. I think it makes it very difficult for a jury to find any other way when you have DNA evidence that is so confirmed on every part of her body.
How confident are you that no parole will be granted?
At the end of the day, that's the judge's decision. Obviously, we will make, we'll make our arguments. Frankly, we'll ask for more than life without parole, most likely, because the sentences can run consecutively. So, as I said, it's life without parole on the murder, it's life on the rape, and then some additional years. So, ultimately, though, at the end of the day, it'll be up to Judge Curtin. I will say, she sat and watched this trial. She saw what a violent and brutal and vicious attack this was, and I hope that she'll consider that ultimately.
If you could have, would you pursue that?
Yes.
This round of rebuttal during the closing argument, you could really hear like your anger and your passion. How do you feel about the emotion that comes from this? I mean, you're presenting the fact that there's got to be an emotional level for you as well.
There is. Obviously, as you heard, I worked this case from the very beginning. I actually went to the crime scene the day this happened, so I've been in it from the very beginning. It was a horrific crime, and my sole goal here was to make sure that we got justice for Rachel. And so, at the end of the day, I needed it to be clear that what the defense was arguing just, frankly, is preposterous. And so we wanted to make it clear to the jury that it is obvious, and showing a little emotion is okay sometimes in the courtroom, and usually rebuttal is the time to do that. And that's when you commonly will see me do that. But so that's why you saw it. Obviously, it's important to me. I have built a relationship with Patty and Rebecca and Michael and all these family members. We've had many, many conversations, many, many meetings leading up to this trial. So not just for our law enforcement or for me, it was most important for me to get justice for them and for the kids who, I have a relationship with, some of them as well. So the fact that they'll never get to see their mother again, it was very important to me for them to see justice served in this case, particularly for the ones who participated, so that they could feel like they had some control over putting the person away.
Just an opportunity here to maybe talk about, how to remember Rachel, who she was physically caught up in was now convicted for the crime,
sure.
And that.
So what I've learned, obviously, is that she has several siblings, all of which think incredibly highly of her. She seems to have had good relationships with all of them, obviously with her mom, who we've seen her from a lot during this case. I know that her children were devastated by this loss. It seems that I know that things like she was the best mom and things of that nature really came out. Obviously, exercising was important to her. She was physically fit, went to the gym that day, and then to the trail. I know the trail was a beloved place for her. From what I've learned, she has been known to be on that trail for years, doing this daily walk. So it was her safe place. It was the place she went to sort of have, I think Mr. Tobin said in the trial, that was where she had her time. Those are the things I've learned about her. I wish I knew more. I wish this isn't the way that I knew or remember her. And I hope that her family can really remember those other things and not just
Go ahead. Harper County is an important state. There's not a lot of crime here. Can you talk about, what this crime did to the community and now with this conviction, what did do for everyone?
So I think that's why this crime shook our community so much, is that we are historically a very safe crime. We are still a safe county. I want that to be clear. Harper County is a safe place to live and work and raise your family. However, at the end of the day, when the these crimes get committed, we want criminals to understand you will be investigated, you will be found, you will be prosecuted, you will be convicted, and you will go to jail. That's what we want people to know from this. And I think the nature of this crime and that we don't generally have crimes like this is why it shook our community. So,
any concerns about appeals from the defense?
I'm sure they will appeal on some issue. I mean, generally they will in a case like this. I'm very confident in the ruling Judge Kurtz made during this trial. I think she gave soundly the basis for all the decisions she made. She's an incredibly smart and articulate judge, so she makes a good record. So I'm not concerned about appeal issues, and if that happens, we'll do it.
And just give us some context. We know Harper County is a smaller county. I believe this trial was happening in one of the larger courtrooms that we have, and it was filled pretty much every single day. First day of jury selection, there wasn't room for the journalists there. So talk to me about, the size of this trial, the scope of this trial in comparison to maybe other trials and cases that you've covered or have been seen in this county.
Yeah, so we've had plenty of, we'll call them big trials. We have plenty of cases where courtrooms, have people in them watching. Generally, it's family and friends, things of that nature. But I think the attention on this case, again, goes to how this community was shook. And so there were community members who really were not related to any party in this case who wanted to see, how this trial is going to play out. So I think, again, that just goes to how this crime impacted our community.
Can you give me insight into why this occurred?
I cannot. The judge sealed that, so I can't really provide that information on that. Okay, thank you all.
Okay, now then. Hey, David. Hi, David. Right, now it's interesting what you asked, Golden, because I got all confused with that. These cousins, he had two cousins. He's got two cousins. And the person that I know that has been sort of been giving me updates on the trial, etc., they sent me an email to try and explain this. Now, it's a little bit confusing, so I'm going to read out what they said in the email of the situation regarding the cousins. Let's have a look. Because I got confused. I'm thinking, where are these? Because I don't know the geography of the area either as well. So the Morin Trail is near Bel Air, isn't it, I think? And then where one of the other cousins were. Anyway, let me read to you. So this is what happened. Let's, because I was wondering, where was he living when he actually committed this crime? Can't have been far away because Victor didn't have a car. So he's had to flee from there. Oh, night, Tracy. Oh, Golden, you know the area a bit better, right? Well, you'll probably understand then. So I don't know, obviously I'm in Spain. I've never been to Maryland. But let me read to you what I was told by someone from that area who knows everything, knows very well about this case and has been going to the trial every day and has been letting me know how it's been going. So this is what they said to me. So it was genetic genealogy that led the FBI to one of Victor's cousins' homes in Temple Hills, Maryland. So one of his cousins, Jose, I think his name is, he lived in Temple Hills, Maryland, which apparently, and you'll know if you've lived there, is more than an hour away from Bel Air. Then he said, so from March to December 2023, Victor lived with his friend just over half a mile from the attack location. But this is before the attack, of course. So the attack was in August 2023, but was it from that time, from March to December, that he lived with a friend just over half a mile from the attack location? Was that when he, because he seemed to know that Morin Trail well, didn't he? He knew where that storm drain was. He knew the right vantage point to wait for someone coming round the corner. As I say, it's not really clear whether he was waiting for Rachel in particular or just for a woman on her own to come around the corner. But he seemed to know the area. Anyway, during his time in Bel Air, he lived on 320 George Street. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to, sometimes I'm not, they have sent me a little map, but sometimes they don't like me to show the maps if it's a map that because they don't want to be mentioned. Let's see. So in December 2023, apparently he left Bel Air without telling his roommate. He just left a note saying he was leaving and he didn't say where he was going. He then wrote to his aunt on Facebook. Don't forget, these are the cousins that at the trial he said he didn't have, and he didn't know him, never heard of him. Don't know why they're saying he's their cousin. Anyway, he then wrote to his aunt on Facebook saying he didn't have anywhere to live and he asked if he could stay with her. And she agreed. So Victor moved in with his aunt and cousin in Temple Hills. But Temple Hills is near Washington, D.C. apparently, and 61 miles from Bel Air and about a 1.5 hour drive. So where was he actually living when the attack took place? Did he travel all that way? I mean, he might have got a bus and gone all that way. Anyway, when the FBI started, because the FBI found from the DNA on the baseball cap that his cousin was, part of the DNA family of this, the DNA that they'd found on his baseball cap. And he was living at that house, at his cousin's house, when the FBI went to call at the house to talk about the DNA. He was living there. And he said, apparently, when they called round, he was there. And he went out the back to do some washing. And when they went there, the FBI, they knew that the family of the suspect lived there. So they were already closing. I think they closed in on him. It was just a question of, because he then left. He then left there. And he took the FBI card with him. But the card that the FBI left at his cousin's house, Victor took with him when he left his cousin's house. Just, again, he just left, without telling them he was going. 1 minute he was there, the next minute he was gone. But that helped to pinpoint him, because then when they found him in Oklahoma, finally, where he was living, this FBI card that they'd left there was in Oklahoma. So, that actually, him doing that, taking it with him, was just another nail in his coffin, really. Now, let's have a look at these. So that day, so just an interesting aside, the sergeant in charge of that investigation told my source that the day that the FBI visited his cousin in Temple Hills, when he was actually there at the house, it was May the 20th, which is Rachel's birthday. So where was he actually staying when the attack happened? Maybe, what was he doing? He was a funny guy, wasn't he? Just sort of, he was like a drifter, isn't he? Just drifting around, sofa surfing and sort of just going from place to place and then committing attacks. I really feel with Victor, it's just been such a good result that he was, even though unfortunately women have suffered already from him, 2 women dead and 2 other women sort of attacked by him that we know of. I do think it's so good that he has been stopped, because he would have carried on. Literally, you're talking about a guy who's only in his early 20s. So, in the good old days when serial killers used to sort of wander around, killing willy-nilly with no DNA to link their cases together. And when I say the good old days, I'm being facetious. In the 70s, which is like some sort of golden era for serial killers, because they could literally, before the sort of CODIS database and before states start in America, I'm talking about before, states started to share information and things like that. You got your people like Ted Bundy, who could sort of go all over America. Not only him, loads. Lorry drivers, what was he called? The smiley face killer. I mean, there's lots of them. And it wasn't until it's DNA that has helped to sort of catch these people. A lot of them just went on killing willy-nilly, and some were never caught with it. I mean, look at the Golden Gate killer. He was only caught in the end from DNA. He was quite elderly before he was caught. So, DNA has been a game changer. Thank God for DNA in Victor's case, because he definitely would have carried on and killed other people. So the other thing that I just want to talk about, I did mention it in another video, but just in case there's people, because I know people don't watch every single video, there might be information that they don't know. That Victor has a daughter. I always feel sorry for these children of these twonks, because, to grow up and find out who your parents are or your father is, it's not nice, is it? And, Victor even brought his daughter into this case because he said that somebody must have taken his daughter's DNA and left it at the scene. Somebody had planted it there. Probably his ex-girlfriend, he said. Or there was another woman who apparently was stalking him, a woman called Fatima, who was stalking him, was obsessed by him, didn't like the fact he was interested in somebody else. So they planted his daughter's DNA, or planted, this was Victor's defense, that the DNA was planted. He really thought he could get away with that, Oh, and we have got a little video of Victor, haven't we, in these interviews? I presume his full videos might come out eventually, his full interviews. We haven't looked at this actually online. Let's see. There's a very short video of him. I will find it. I was listening to his voice, you know, I was interested to hear his voice. He's got that very typical South American accent because, you know, I live in Spain and I speak Spanish, but the South American accent is quite different from the Spanish accent, if you see what I mean. You can, you know, tell it a mile off. Now, I found this the other day really easy. I can't find it now. Oh, come on. Oh, this is it, I think. Right, I'm going to share this. So I get a little sneak peek of his police interview.
County tonight, as we said, the prosecution has rested their case after 6 days of testimony. This in the trial of the man accused of killing Rachel Morin. Your Hartford County community reporter Ashley Paul has been on top of this story for us all week long. She has more on what we have learned from inside the courthouse today.
Video seen by the public for the first time today shows the first interview investigators had with suspect Victor Martinez Hernandez after he was arrested back in June of 2024. And it's likely the only time we'll hear directly from Martinez Hernandez before the jury decides his fate. Seen by the public for the first time, Victor.
Look at this swinging around on the chair. They say that's a sign, don't they, of lies? Yeah. He looks younger here than I've seen him look, because, you know, sometimes I've looked at him and I thought, God, he doesn't look as young as he is. But he looks quite young here. I don't know why, but he does. And he's very slight, isn't he? You know, that was a surprise. We thought he'd be a bigger guy, didn't we?
Martinez Hernandez speaking to detectives after his arrest in Tulsa, Oklahoma, denying any involvement in Rachel Morin's murder.
We are here investigating the murder of a female. Una muerte de una señora. But I haven't done anything.
But extensive DNA tests.
I don't think for a minute that man doesn't speak English. I've said it right from the beginning. I think he's, from when I saw him being arrested, I think he does speak English. As he may not be, you know, perfect English, but, you know, he's not traveled around America for all that time without picking up some English.
Testimony this afternoon from Tiffany Keener with the Maryland State Police Crime Lab shows DNA found on Morin's body is a match to Martinez Hernandez.
This is the key that ties everything together that we've heard for the past 6 days now, is the DNA wraps up the crime scene and what happened to Rachel Morin and everything that was found there to the suspect that they arrest in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this is a very important day that puts the bow on this whole case.
Keener explains she produced 6 reports between August of 2023 and June of 2024. She began detailing what was found during that first report, which focused on DNA at the crime scene. She explained DNA from an unknown male was found on Morin's neck, left wrist, breasts, and Apple Watch. She later testified after testing items collected from family members of Martinez Hernandez that the likelihood of someone else matching that DNA profile is 1 in 400 million. That's 400 with 30 zeros in the.
Yeah, that was a big thing. The DNA was just a big thing because he was the only person who couldn't be excluded. You know, they tested quite a lot of people, the DNA. He could not be excluded. And also they came out with these massive numbers of, you know, the likelihood.
U.S. Hispanic community.
Well, I would think that that's a pretty good probability that it's not somebody else out in the world. It's got to be the defendant here.
But even before that DNA match was officially made, when asked why his DNA was found at the crime scene, Martinez Hernandez offered investigators his own explanation.
Can he help us explain? ¿Usted nos puede ayudar o explicar why his DNA, por qué tu DNA would be at our crimes? You know, in reality, I don't know. I don't know. Como hoy en día está la tecnología. Like today, there's so much technology.
Listen to his voice as well. He's so softly spoken. You know, this man is a ghoul. You know, he's evil because he's like, but he's the most because he's one of those. He sounds so inoffensive and he looks inoffensive, doesn't he? He's like the most dangerous type of person. He just sort of, I don't know, when he talks, it was like his voice surprised me. I don't know why. I thought it would be more gruff, you know. And then that's when, to me, did finally seem young, the age that he is. You know, he's just like, you know, his voice is, and when he speaks Spanish, just so softly spoken. God.
Cualquiera puede hacerle daño a uno. Anyone could do damage to anyone.
The defense will have a chance to introduce any witnesses on Monday, followed, of course, by closing arguments, and then the jury will head into deliberations. On your corner in Harford County, I'm Ashley Paul.
Yeah, so, you know, he seemed to have some success with women, so I don't think, you know, he had a child. He seemed to have all these women that were clamoring for his attention, according to him. Let's just see if I can find this thing that he said about Fatima. He came out with some woman called Fatima who was obsessed by him. Because I won't be able to find that now, probably. Anyway, he came out with the fact that this woman apparently planted the DNA because she was jealous, maybe. Or maybe his ex-girlfriend planted the DNA, planted his daughter's DNA. These are the sort of things that he came out with. I hope one day, like we're seeing now with the Richard Allen, with the Delphi murders, do you think one day we'll get to see the whole interview? You know, because up to now, we've only sort of seen literally those little clips, because I suppose they don't ever want to prejudice trials and things like that. So we only get to see little bits. Now we're getting to see all the Richard Allen interviews. And I can understand why they didn't show those interviews. Well, they showed them to the jury, of course, but why they didn't show them publicly. You know, because they were compromising, weren't they? And they just wanted the case to go ahead, the conviction to be secured. And now those tapes, phone calls and things are coming out. And hopefully that's what will happen. I say hopefully, I mean, it doesn't, I don't care really whether I watch him being interviewed or not. It's just for my own curiosity, for the Spanish side of it. I want to listen to him talking and hear what he's got to say. I don't know, Golden. I thought so. Whether I'm imagining it or not, I swear that at one point when I was searching, because I do so much searching and research, I swear I saw that it was Fatima, because I remember thinking Fatima. I mean, you know, I can't see it being Fiona. I don't know. I just presumed it was Fatima, and it, you know, it's an Arabic name, isn't it? Of course, but I don't know. Why can't I find it now? Let's have a look. I'll have one more look. I'm tired now, so it's difficult for me to find things because I get, you know, it is 1:15 here in Spain. Let's see. I can't find it now. Maybe I just imagined it. I don't know though, because normally if I saw that, the bit, let me try Fiona. Oh yeah, it's saying Fiona. Where have I got Fatima from? Sorry, I'm just laughing at myself. Anyway, so yeah, he said that a woman named Fiona was jealous because he already had a woman, and Fiona her. Sorry, I mean, I'm just laughing because it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Oh God, it keeps trying to. Sorry, it keeps. I'm trying to read the article and it keeps trying to. So it's saying here that he's been found guilty. Where's the thing about Fiona? Yeah, he said a woman named Fiona was jealous because he already had a woman, and then she became an aggressive stalker that he had to report to the police. So he had to go to the police about stalker, apparently. He denied hurting or murdering anyone during the interrogation, and even denied knowing the name Rachel Morin, even though his phone showed video news reports about her murder case on his cell phone in the days leading up to his arrest. So, well, I haven't got classes. I've got classes at 11 tomorrow morning. But I've got a video that I'm preparing. I'm prepared. I've got what I think you'll all find is a very interesting video about a very interesting case that sort of spans over Spain and Britain. And I've been preparing it. You know, it's one of those where I've actually got a script and everything. And that's what I was going to record tomorrow morning. Now, will I make it or not? I have no idea, because God knows what time I'll get to bed now. And of course, I've had the vodka. Well, I've had 2 vodkas now. I may even have one more before I go back to bed. I know. Could you imagine him going to? Now, the thing is, David, of course, if that was true, there'd be a police report, wouldn't there? There'd be a police report somewhere of him going to the police. I mean, I think he should have stuck with Fatima. He should have stuck with Fatima, never mind Fiona. I have no idea where I got Fatima from. So I'm getting a little bit hysterical now with it. Oh dear. Where did I get Fatima from? Anyway. But also, I know that he did say that somebody had taken it as well, that someone had taken his daughter's DNA and planted it there. Everyone had it in for Victor. And it was clever. One of the detectives that was interviewing him early on said to him, well, why? Because he said, oh, well, there are people that don't like me. And the detective said to him, well, who wouldn't like you? You know, tried to. So he kept tying himself in knot. I mean, they knew that what he was saying was rubbish, but sometimes they let people talk, don't they? We're seeing that. I love these interrogation videos, you know, watching them work, you know, when they're good at it, and trick people, not trick them, but, you know, encourage them until in the end they turn themselves in knots, don't they? They tie themselves in knots and then they get annoyed, don't they, with the police. That's when they realise it's all going wrong, then they start getting annoyed, don't they? And I think the best interrogation video is that of Russell Williams, isn't it? It's on my channel somewhere. We did a react video to that. Remember Russell Williams, the colonel? He was another one living like a, you know, perfectly normal life. You know, he was a respected colonel in the Canadian, was it in the Air Force? I think he was a pilot. He'd flown the Queen of England. You know, he was well respected in the community. And it turns out he was going around stealing women's underwear, and then RAPing them, and then sometimes murdering them. And when he was brought in for that interrogation, where he started off, he said to his wife, oh, I'll be back for dinner. And then, of course, he wasn't. He's still in prison now. But just watching that interrogation develop, it's fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've not used the golden goblet for a while, actually. I should use it on a Sunday when I do the Sunday service, have some communion wine. Look, you can just this one. I must admit, I am enjoying this, but I will suffer in the morning. Tomorrow I'll be like, oh, why did I do that? Anyway, so yes, it's good news. Guilty verdict within a couple of hours, I think it was. Let's see. I did see before what it was, and now I've forgotten. It didn't take them long. Surprised it took 2 hours, actually, if it did. And it's funny because we knew that the defence had nothing, but, you know, when it goes to a verdict, it's always nerve-wracking. It's always nerve-wracking because you just never know, do you? It only takes a couple of jurors to not be happy with the DNA results or to believe, you know, that it might have been her boyfriend. Only takes two, and then it all gets complicated. So let's see where I get guilty verdict. Only an hour, not even 2 hours. That sounds more like it, yeah. 1 hour. They deliberated for about an hour before returning a guilty verdict. Now, I'm going to go in a minute. If you're looking for somebody else to watch, to talk about Rachel, have a look at the Decipher podcast. She'll be on live at some point. She said she was coming on live, and of course she's on American hours. She'll be on to talk about what's happened. Tia Dash, Decipher. If I'm still awake, I might watch, but I probably won't be still awake. But I'll watch it tomorrow anyway, so I'll watch it tomorrow. So it's called Decipher. It's Tia Dash. She'll be on at some point tonight live. Okay, so listen, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for caring about Rachel. And, you know, what happened to Rachel? It's terrible. You know, it'd be terrible whatever happens. But, you know, poor Rachel, she was literally going for a walk or a hike or a run, whatever she was doing, on a trail that she'd done for you. She should have been safe. She should have been safe. It's terrible. And at least if it highlights that, you know, it has highlighted that. And there are now a lot of, they've put up a lot of cameras, haven't they, on that trail. So, you know, hopefully it will never, ever happen again. But just, you know, the barbarity of it, the cruelty of it, and the violence of it. But anyway, justice for Rachel. You'll get the maximum sentence. That's what they want. Life without parole. That's what we're going to hope for, isn't it? So thank you for watching. I'm going to put Rachel's little tribute video on again. I'm going to do a new video for Rachel. I've got a lot of photos of Rachel, and I'm going to put them all together and make a nice video. So, yeah, I hope you all sleep well. If you're going to sleep, because I know, Golden, it'll be your daytime, will it? Or is it evening time? I don't know. But, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Till I see you again, may your God, as always, go with you. Let me just put this picture up of Rachel, because I do like this one. Oh, that's the background. Oh, see, I'm putting it up as a background instead as a picture. I'm too tired now. I'll put this up. Bye.